AI may not directly replace you, but like somebody who's using AI is going to probably replace you. The marketers are going to win in this new age of AI is not only the ones who are using the AI, but the ones who are like really creative, they're well-read, and they kind of come with different creative ways of asking the AI, different questions, generating deeper, conversations and stuff.
AI can now draft up 95% of an S1 IPO prospectus. And this task was something that once demanded a 6-person team and at least a week's worth of work. And it got it done in mere minutes.
You can't replace part of the brain. Like, you
treat them the same.
Source of truth for the medtech industry.
Coexists with the puppets.
Robot understands things automatically.
Number one show in the medtech industry.
So Stryker got ahead of that and changed in the $90 billion company. They had help up high, a lot of things.
State of medtech with your host, Omar M. Khatib.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. So to kind of extend our series talking to marketers and thought leaders in the space, one thing that we hear a lot about is AI in medtech, when most of the medtech companies are not actually AI companies, but also use of AI within a company on the marketing side. And so Grace Hanson is the director of enterprise marketing over at Eko, which is a smart stethoscope. It was the world's first smart stethoscope. A really cool approach essentially is just quick plug on their side is, they took the skills and specialty of like a cardiologist who's been trained over decades on, let's say, listening to specific heart arrhythmias and murmurs, and scaled it using this smart stethoscope and their software. So that way you can essentially scale that approach through primary care and beyond. My cardiologist actually has an Eko device. He loves it, but it's also a great tool for, primary care physicians who are not cardiologists. So that being said, Joseph Highland Othman, a good mutual friend, guest of the pod, people's champ, connected us, and Grace and I have developed a really great friendship. And so when I was looking at marketers to have on the show, I really wanted to have Grace on. So because she, as they say, walks the walk when she talks the talk. So Grace, thanks for coming on, and excited to talk about like how you use AI as a marketer. But maybe before we get into that, give a little background on yourself in the industry. I know that you were previously in product management and moved into different marketing roles, but yeah, give us a little like 30-second, 60-second, who is Grace Hanson and how did you get into the medtech industry? That's the other side.
Well, first of all, super excited to be here, Omar, and I'm just honored that you invited me to be here and have this discussion with you. I think it's an important one. But taking a step back, I started actually my career in sales, pharmaceutical sales with Pfizer. So sold all different kinds of products with them. So all different specialties that I covered, many different disease states. And I was there for about 8 years. And then from there, I was actually completing my MBA degree. And then from there, that's how I got into marketing. It was someone I'd met from the MBA program, happened to be at Boston Scientific. And she said, hey, we have this opening in product marketing. Would you be interested in applying? We have this really unique product and we need somebody with kind of an entrepreneurial mindset who can be scrappy and get this product to market. And I jumped at the opportunity because my degree was actually in marketing in both undergrad and MBA. And so it's like, being in sales, it's like the very as downstream as it gets, but it was like I was looking to actually use my degree. So it was exciting. But really, when you think about my time at Boston Scientific, there was nothing AI focused about that. It was very traditional product marketing and launch excellence, if you will. And I learned a lot there, but it was very randomly. Somebody actually tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, there's an opening also in marketing at this other firm that it's an AI integrated device in the neurology space. It was just completely different than anything I'd ever done. And I was a little scared. I'm like, what do you mean AI? What do you mean it's in neurology? Like, how does this work? And the more I learned about the product, the more intrigued I was. And that really kind of started me into this whole new world of medtech startup land, if you will, and products that are integrated with AI and how it's really revolutionizing the way that medicine is practiced. So in a nutshell, that's kind of where I started and where I've ended up. And now here I am at Eko Health, again, a digital stethoscope, but it's not just that. It's a digital stethoscope that can be integrated with Sensora, which is our AI platform to, like I said, truly revolutionize the way that medicine is practiced, especially in the private practice and primary care sector.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think like just, before we get into the details about like how we use AI as marketers, I think what's really cool about Eko in terms of the applications of AI is, aside from the scale approach, once you have so much data, so like one thing is like capturing new data, which Echo does, right? And when you capture a lot of new data, you discover things. And that those are the kind of things that change like clinical guidelines, practice guidelines, and everything, right? And so that's really exciting for me just because like as you start doing that, you move more from sick care and disease care to more actual like prevention and prediction of these diseases and what you do, which I think is really exciting, you know?
That's exactly the reason why we're doing this. It was interesting. I was having a discussion with a physician recently, and they were saying, like, people keep talking about AI in all these products, and you need to stop talking about it because it's so pervasive. It's everywhere. It's no longer a selling point. And I would say that if you have a customer who's saying either that to you, or they're saying, like, you are bringing in AI, you're trying to replace me, you're trying to take away my job, you've already lost the discussion. Because when I look at what we're doing, and this is the story that we tell, we had a patient who she was short of breath, she was feeling fatigue, and she went in just for a general checkup in a very rural clinic. It was actually in Louisiana. And this provider had our stethoscope, used it on her in just a routine exam, and they found that she had heart murmur, very significant heart murmur. She was immediately referred to one of our other customers who's a cardiothoracic surgeon. And they ended up having to do 2 valve replacements on her, a ligation and a bypass. I mean, it was very serious. And in the words of that cardiothoracic surgeon, he said, had we not caught the disease as early as we did, it could have led to her demise, certainly. But because it was caught as early as it was detected, not diagnosed, but we're detecting, right? They were able to then take appropriate action, get those valves replaced, and now it's as if she never had the disease at all. And I'm like, if you can't resonate with a story like that, if a story about how the use of AI can make a meaningful difference for patients, then this is not the product for you, right? Don't waste your time on those customers. Find one who really cares and like, hey, we really want to change meaningfully how we treat our patients, how we detect these, life-threatening diseases earlier, right? Those are the ones that are going to really champion your product and help you get across that chasm into wider adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the other side of it that's really interesting is that like right now, I mean, not everything has AI, but the way that I guess technology revolutions and adoption happens, like we're kind of in like there was like the internet revolution, which was like the last 2 decades, and now we're in the AI revolution. So it's going to be as silly as like, I think maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, like saying something that has AI in it is, remember like maybe 10 years ago or something, 15 years ago, it was like a feature point where you would say like, oh, like it can connect to Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi enabled and everything. And now it's like, like you just don't think about it,
No,
you know?
it's like taken for granted. It's like it's no longer a selling point. Like it used to be Starbucks saying, "Hey, come here. We have AI, or not AI. We have Wi-Fi, and you can sit here and do your work while sipping your coffee." And now
Yeah, now it's just table stakes, 100%,
everyone
100%.
has
So
Wi-Fi. It's the same thing. So when you have customers that say that, "Oh, everything is AI," well, it doesn't yet, but it will. To your point, Omar. But I think talking about the product, talking about my product, how we've used AI. I think having discussions with other fellow marketers, I'm so surprised when I find that they say we don't use AI at all in our work. And it's the same thing that you said, Omar. Like now, internet's everywhere. We all do emails. We're not writing snail mail letters. It's almost like a treat if you get a snail mail letter anymore. And that's a whole nother marketing strategy that we could cover some other time. But AI is actually in a lot of products that we use, and maybe you don't know it, right? And you could be harnessing that in an effective way to make your work more efficient, much like how we market our products to customers about why AI is integrated in our digital stethoscope, for example. You could be doing more efficient, effective work as a marketer if you're using AI the right way. And it's interesting, even though we're saying a lot of people don't use it. It was like what 2023 was a Gallup survey. They found that maybe a little less than 20% of white collar workers were using AI into some capacity in their work. That grew to over 30% in 2024. Now it's over 40% in 2025, according to Gallup. So it is growing rapidly and it's only going to continue. And you might wonder, okay, fine, so what? Why does this matter? Well, it touches on the point that I brought up about the impact of AI, how it can help you take on complex roles. And there was an interview actually with the CEO of Goldman Sachs, David Solomon. And what he said, there was something really profound and impactful. He said, AI can now draft up 95% of an S1 IPO prospectus. And this task was something that once demanded a 6-person team and at least a week's worth of work. And it got it done in mere minutes. Now, it's 95% because there's still that 5% where human judgment, creativity, and nuance still holds value and where it's absolutely vital. Certainly, as a marketing leader, we're talking about doing an IPO prospectus here. But from marketing standpoint, I'm sure many of you can think of tasks that are rather tedious, can be rather complex, take up a lot of your time, that if you know how to harness the power of AI, it can really help you do something. The same thing with excellence, but just crunch down the amount of time it takes and the amount of manpower it takes to just do that one task.
If you're a CEO of a medtech company and you just got ghosted by another investor this week, or maybe a strategic that you're trying to have a meeting with just kind of brushed you off at a conference, and you're just sick and tired of all this, you want to make these people pretty much eat their words, right? I think I have something for you. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most medtech startups don't fail because of product. And trust me, I can confidently say this after interviewing so many different startups on the show, investors, strategics. A lot of them fail because the market never really formed around them. My obsession with technology adoption and, more importantly, market engineering has sort of taken shape over the years into my business called MarketCraft and recruiting a top tier team around me for that. And MarketCraft, we're not just about digital marketing and campaigns and everything. We focus on engineering markets. We use AI trained models, psychology, persuasion, and strategic storytelling to manufacture something that every single CEO needs. And that's leverage. We want to give you leverage with the market. So by creating magnetic messaging and attention, we can shape a belief system that is going to attract and magnetize those early clinical adopters to you. We want to give you leverage with investors because when your category narrative is very clear and your demand signals are loud and you can show this early clinical pipeline, and then at that point, capital start to chase you instead of the other way around. Now you have options. And then leverage with strategics. Because look, when you show a strategic, and trust me, I've had many conversations with them on this podcast and offline. When you show them that you're starting to own momentum in a space that they care about, you don't just look like a startup to them anymore. Now you look more like a partner. And if you do it really well, potentially competition they need to take out, right? So if you're an early stage medtech CEO and this all resonated with you, I want you to stop what you're doing, put pause on this podcast, go to growmymedtech.com. That's GROW, growmymedtech.com. I want you to book time with me. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of a market analysis for you. I'm going to come to the table with 2 to 3 really good ideas. You know, there's not a guarantee that you guys might be a fit for us. It could be the wrong time, a lot of things like that. We turn away more companies than we take on. But I can guarantee you that you're going to walk away with 2 or 3 really good ideas for free, and it's going to be a good conversation. So go to growmymedtech.com. I'm really looking forward to talking with you. And more importantly, you can feel free to vent to me about all the problems that you're having, because at MarketCraft, we want to come and solve those for you immediately. Now, let's get back to the episode. 100%. And I'm glad you mentioned that there is some nuance. Like, you can't 100% rely on AI. Otherwise, like, there's some nuance that's missing there. But again, like an S1, yeah, it takes a lot of time to do those kind of things. I think the most important things is that these applications not only lower your cost, but more importantly, amplify like your workload, right? There's that saying that's been going around the valley where it's, AI may not directly replace you, but like somebody who's using AI is going to probably replace you, right?
Well,
And I think that's such an important thing. I mean,
yeah.
even who was it? Like Mark Benioff even said that when he introduced agentic AI agents last year, his thing is like they were not hiring any more like developers and stuff. And the main reason why is because those same developers are using a lot of these tools to sort of amplify and scale their work. So maybe simply put, like, I'll let you go first and I'll sort of piggyback on that. But what are your go-to daily AI tools that you like to use as a marketer?
What's going on, everybody? Quick commercial break. Now, whether you're a sales or marketing leader in medtech, let's be honest, when you think about your reps who are out in the field, they're spending a lot of time not selling, like literally not selling. And the reason why that's happening is because our industry is really outdated when it comes to sales enablement and sales excellence. Think about what your reps are actually doing if you really ask them. They're spending time updating the CRM, juggling administrative tasks, searching for the right piece of content before they talk to a surgeon. They're literally at a disadvantage, and it doesn't have to be this way. That's not selling. It's literally just friction getting in the way of revenue. This is why I've personally partnered up with Showpad for over the past year. You've heard me talk about them before on the show. Showpad is the first AI-powered revenue effectiveness platform built for complex field selling. It brings together things like content, readiness, collaboration, and intelligence, all in one place so you understand things like which piece of content is actually having the most impact and effect, and more importantly, how you can automate things so that sellers can focus on selling. Sellers can instantly find the right content with AI search, sharpen their pitches with AI roleplay, which is really cool to see, and even build digital mutual action plans that stay in sync with buyers and accelerate deal cycles. Deal velocity and pipeline velocity is everything. Showpad really helps that. So all this context essentially goes back and fuels Showpad's intelligence layer, surfacing insights and the next best steps to help sellers close deals faster. So if you're interested to learn more, go to showpad.com/state of medtech, and you can learn more there. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Even something as simple, this is going to sound really funny, Omar, but even just something as simple as using Zoom, and there's this AI function that just summarizes your meeting. Gosh, can you think of how long that used to take, having to take your notes and then having to disseminate them and then having to send it out to the team? Now it's done.
That used to be a skill. Remember that used to be a skill, like whoever's like really good at taking meeting notes.
Yes. And now it's like you have an AI companion that can do that for you. Or for example, like Gemini, you can even have something like that. You take a whole list, like say you went to a conference, you take a list of people, you pop it in there and you ask it to format it for you. So it's formatted in such a way that you can upload it now into Salesforce and then use that to then track that format. You can use that to track the ROI of your campaign, your marketing campaign that you've done now. But it used to be very manual where you'd have to take all these names and it was jumbled. It was like this list that you got from a conference, like a targeting list, if you will, and then having to manually format it. Well, now you can have something like Gemini do it for you. Or for example, like if you use like a chat function like ChatGPT, for example, you can use that to say, hey, I want to create an outline. I need to do a film shoot and create a video asset. And we need to have this many people that we're interviewing. Here's their names. Here's their roles. These are the questions we want to ask. We need to have subtitling coming up on the screen. Like you can input the commands, and that's going to be a whole nother skill, right? How you use AI. You don't just say, hey, I want to outline and have something spit out. Well, you're going to get something really funky. You need to have the right commands and prompts that you put in there, very specifically saying what it is that you want. And then it can come out and give something to you. And it'll be like maybe 50% of the way there, 60% of the way there. You still need to fine tune and polish it. But wow, it really takes on a lot of the work of just putting something into a structure sometimes. So those are three right off the top of my head that I can think of where it's doing something that is very routine, right? But it was something that used to take us a lot of time to do, and not necessarily something that's customer facing, right? But it's something that's like low stakes, but just used to take a lot of manpower and manual labor to do.
Right. And, I was going to say the other side is that with, there was I got to find it. It was on X the other day that there was a nature study showing like the negative impact of like using ChatGPT all the time, which is like, they tested people who were asked to like write something,
Yes.
and the people who were using ChatGPT like could not write anything, and they performed worse than the people who never wrote at all, right?
Well, that's
And so I think there,
yeah. Actually, it was an MIT study. The
yes,
TLDR.
yeah, you know what I'm talking about, yeah.
Yep, it was an MIT study. What they found was for those who used ChatGPT to write content, only like they could only, I think it was like 84% they couldn't remember of what they wrote. They could not remember anything, 84% of the participants. And when you juxtapose that against someone who wrote it themselves, 11% of those folks could not remember what they wrote. So huge divide. But the thing is that when they looked at it from a scientific perspective, the neural connectivity collapsed from 79 active regions to just 42, which is a significant drop off. So it's basically turning your brain to mush if you're not using it the right way. So that would be my caution there, is that you don't want to use something like ChatGPT being like, hey, I want to write a press release. Let's just pop this in there. Let's have it write a press release for me.
I got a solution for you. Like, here's my solution, and you kind of exemplify this. Is that I think, and this is one of my issues with our space, is that we sell to a customer base who values continuing education, but then we don't adopt it ourselves. And so I feel like marketers having to constantly, go and spend time like reading new books, reading new studies, everything. Like, look at the conversation you and I had. This is why I get along with you very well, because you're very well read and educated. And then that context is so much more valuable. So, for example, you mentioned getting your MBA. So I'm sure that at some point you got introduced to like Al Ree's work, who wrote the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. So if you talk to like ChatGPT and prompt it with something, so prompt engineering is like a whole thing in itself, and you don't give it context, but if you give it context and say, hey, like you are an expert marketer who's trained under Al Rees, you've embodied like the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing along with XYZ other strategies and approaches. Based on that, come up with a marketing strategy. That's going to give you a much different and richer response and context than anything else. And even if you don't know these things off the top of your head, I think also training the AI and giving it like I would say this, I always felt that business people who are really good are people who are very creative and imaginative. And so it's the same thing with AI, which is like, if you have a really good imagination, then you're really good at giving like good context or role. Cause it's kind of like talking to a child and it's like, hey, look, here's who you're supposed to be. Here's the context of things. Here's the kind of actions I want you to take, etc. And you get much better responses versus right now. I think even people who started using LLMs, they'll just give like, a very basic prompt and to get basic response back,
Exactly. No, I think I was talking to you about this, Omar, but it was a joke. But I had a family member who said, hey, I'm going to do this joke. I'm going to have this speech written for me for my sister's wedding. And he said up front, hey, this is brought to you by ChatGPT. And it was the most dry, robotic speech. And I think his prompt was like, write a speech for my sister's wedding, right? Like that was the
Right.
prompt. And it was a joke, right? But there's ways that you can do that. You can be, and this was something that a digital marketer actually taught me. He said, you could put in a prompt that says, write this LinkedIn post, but write it in the voice of an expert marketing leader. Well, it's going to change that voice. You can change it, be like, write this as if I was a provider, like a nurse, a physician, whatever. And it's going to change the tone of the writing.
Mhm.
So it's like like you said, being creative, thinking outside the box, thinking about how you can give that prompt, because the AI is only going to be as creative and as smart as you let it be in some way.
Absolutely. And just on that note, just for the audience, just because I have it written down as a note to bring up, but I want to just give the audience, if you guys want to like pause or like clip this out, just a really good, simple and basic anatomy of a good prompt. So think of I'm going to give you a mnemonic. So CRAO or CRAO, right? So C, context, so provide like background or context to the action. So for example, who's the audience, the tone that you want to set, everything. So that's a C. The R is the role. You want to tell ChatGPT who you want it to be. So as like Grace mentioned, like an expert marketer, etc. For me, I always like to tell it, if it's an expert at something, but like give some like deeper background. So if I'm doing copywriting, I tell like, hey, you're an expert copywriter that's trained under David Ogilvy and Eugene Schwartz. Like that, you're going to get the best copywriter in the world, right? So that's the R. A is the action. So you want tell what you want to do. So you want to give it context, like, hey, give me a report, be concise, use bullet points, use frameworks when needed, etc. And then O is the output. So you want to tell it how you want the information, right? Again, going to like, you want it in paragraph, bullet point form, etc. Right? And I would say like, it's important to get in a habit of like talking with it. Like you wouldn't just like, everyone who's listening to this has some, for the most part, a direct report. You don't just tell your direct report something, they go do it. You have a conversation, you meet. So that's the same thing I think you have to do with ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini or whatever LLM you like to use,
No, it's true. And it was funny. Someone said that, hey, I'm trying to be really polite to my AI chatbot because who knows if someday it'll try to take over the world. And
Oh,
remember that I was one of the good ones. So I say, please and thank you. This was not me, but someone was telling me this.
all right. So I don't want to get on like a very metaphysical, deep, esoteric conversation, but I have to make a comment about this. Okay. So AI can be somewhat demonic. Okay. Based on how it's trained, based on a lot of things. We're talking about like hours and hours worth of like history conversation. So let's just take my word on that. Sergey Brin, who's the founder of Google, now Alphabet, everything, mentioned this, and I can confirm, even though it's going to feel very uncomfortable, a lot of times the LLMs will perform better when you threaten them. And so like sometimes, so something we did not expect is that these LLMs will hallucinate, right? Like you'll give it information or you ask it for something and you're reading, you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. And so I tell ChatGPT or my LLMs, thank you all the time, but I also threaten them. So like sometimes when you need to get something out of them and they're not doing it, you need to call them out on their bullshit and threaten them. So I will tell my ChatGPT, like, you made a mistake or this is not right. fix this or I'll kidnap you or I'll kick your ass. It'll get better. It feels really uncomfortable, but just, you guys just trust me. Like, you just got to do it,
Well, Omar, when AI comes for all of us, they're going to remember you and your unkindness.
I know it's a risk I'm worth taking at this point. But no,
Exactly.
but again, going back to being a marketer who is well-read, you invest in your own self-development and training and everything. That's the only way you're going to be able to pick up on the nuance of these things, right? Is to know those certain details and like improve on it, right? So like if you're writing an S1 or an executive summary and everything, you don't just feed it to ChatGPT and take it at its word and just put it out there, right? It gets 95% of the work done,
Wow.
which buys back your time,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yes,
You know,
you still need to proofread everything. Like, let's just say you're doing something as simple as just writing an email and you want to like write it as a summary of everything that you need folks to do because you're like, hey, we're sending a press release out. Here's all the action items that are going to be coming up. It formats it for you, basically takes your brain down, makes it look nice. Well, you need to read it because it could have the wrong dates. Like, I think there was one time I did that and had the complete wrong year. And I was like, well, how did this happen? So, like you said, AI can absolutely hallucinate. Or there was one time I was writing something and I wanted it to go through and just put it all in one single voice because there was a lot of people who had contributed to this content. And so it needed to be put in one voice. And so it did that. I ran it through, said, put it through one voice, make it sound like it's, one person wrote this instead of multiple. Did that. And then it added in a whole new quote from a customer that did not exist from a health system that I had never heard of. And I'm like, why would it do that? Like, it's so strange, but it does hallucinate. And so that's some of the dangers. And that's why, the point of AI is not for it to just be an easy button to do all of your work for you. You absolutely need to make sure that it is clinically accurate, it's completely ethical what's coming out, because sometimes it will be neither of those. So, it is your job to, yes, you can do things more efficiently, but you absolutely need to proofread everything and make sure that it's polished. And you want to put your lens on it too, because here's the danger of AI as well, is that after a while, all the formatting looks the same. It comes across as very homogenous, very soulless, right? And technology out there is starting to get smarter. Like, I'm thinking of even LinkedIn. It's getting smarter where it can sometimes detect if something was written with AI and it'll actually downgrade the visibility of that. It's almost like it's not demonetizing it, but it's almost like deprioritizing that content as a result.
yeah, and again, for me, I'm a SaaS founder. So my co-founder and I have omnicreator.club, which is it's a SaaS tool for creating content on LinkedIn and everything. We have an AI API in there, but even with that, like, you have to, again, get to most of the work done 90% of the time there. And you have to go in, and there's sometimes like all these LLMs, sometimes they make things like too. All I can say is that sometimes I read the content or copy that's written, and it's a little cringy. Like for social media, I'm like, I would never talk like that. So you have to just make these tiny adjustments.
Right.
But again, it gets you all the way there. Like they just released an app for it finally. Google owns an LM. Are you familiar with Notebook LM?
I've heard of it. I have not personally used that one.
No, Notebook. I really love Notebook LM. So the big plug on Notebook LM is it only works based on the sources you give it, right? The reason why I like it is that since it's owned by Google, I can feed it links to YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I'll start on there. I'll feed it links to YouTube videos, a website, some PDFs, etc., and have it create a document from there. And I tell it like, hey, I'm going to be feeding this to a GPT I trained. So it'll create a very long, in-depth document that I can use and give it to my GPT. The other benefit about Notebook LM, which is really wild, is one is that it can create study guides, it can create mind maps. So there's a lot of stuff on YouTube that you want to like learn more about and stuff. What's interesting though is you hit this thing called audio and it'll create a 15-minute podcast that sounds extremely real. Like they're saying the ums and everything. Like I've listened to it multiple times. I can't tell that it's like AI.
Wow.
And so sometimes what's interesting, I tell people like from a brand perspective is like, hey, like if you want to kind of do a gut check on your company, take some of the latest YouTube videos and your website and everything and put it into that LLM and hit the audio and hear what the podcast says about your company.
That's wild. No, I would not.
Isn't that wild?
No, I want to go and try this. Yeah, challenge to all of our listeners. Go and try it.
There's that. There's some other things that we've been exploring on the agency side is using, so like Google VO and using these AI videos. And so a lot of times, you know, you have certain value props as a technology. And so sometimes you just need that to be said by somebody who looks like a physician. So there's these AI videos that you can create a physician in the setting talking about your tech
Right.
and just run ads on that.
No, I mean, especially if you have no thought leader that was willing to do that for you, if you're budget constrained, right? I mean, that's certainly something to consider.
Let me ask you this on the enterprise side. So as a head of marketing, some of these 3D animations, they cost an arm and a leg. Have you started looking at leveraging like some of these AI tools to create these like
Yes.
3D videos and animations? Because like those 3D animations, sorry for anybody who runs a company that does that, they cost 20, 30, 40K sometimes.
They really do. And certainly like when I was at a larger company like Boston Scientific, we did pay an agency to make those for us. And yes, it cost a fortune and they were absolutely beautiful. But when you're looking at like you're at a startup like myself, a medtech startup, and you are being asked to do more with less, you have less manpower, you have the same amount of time in a day, and you have a tiny budget, right? In comparison to, another bigger fish down the road. Well, yeah, you got to get creative. So absolutely, we've had to do things where we'll use an AI to create some of these features for us that would otherwise have cost a fortune, and we can do it reasonably well, right? If we're just trying to illustrate something in a video, right? Now, I have never used it to have a complete person standing in to be like a customer, but we've certainly done like AI voiceovers. So instead of hiring a voice actor, and no offense to voice actor, I used to be one. It's like it's a really
You used to be a voice actor?
I did, yeah.
That's amazing.
It was when I was in undergrad, and it certainly helped pay some of my college bills. But yeah, I used to do a little bit of voice acting, and it was specifically for things that were like educational material, what we would call industrial things. So like teaching people about the importance of like hand washing and like the science behind it. So I would do voice acting for those kinds of pieces.
So on that topic, something that's I believe it's AI related. So fans makes a lot of money. Just to give you guys a context, actually, we should hold on. I'm going to bring this infographic up. OnlyFans. So there was this graphic that was going around. Oh yeah, here we go. I got to show you this graphic. This is so wild. Okay. So for those who, for some reason, don't know what OnlyFans is essentially a social media platform where, if you're interested in like exclusive content and everything with a creator, you can get access to it. Well, over a few years, like it's really porn. Right, that's the majority of their revenue is like, girls who are influencers and they're like, hey, like you can see my nudes on here. Okay. So OnlyFans, I'm not a fan of it, but like business model wise, hell of a business model. So let me show you what that looks like. All right. So for those who are driving, here's the OnlyFans revenue per employee. Okay. So per employee, Apple does $2.4 million in revenue per employee. NVIDIA does $3.6 million per employee.
Wow.
OnlyFans does $37 million per employee in revenue, which is insane. Okay.
Mhm.
And so it just shows like how good of a cash flow engine that is. Well, I think a few weeks ago, there was a circulation of news that OnlyFans is looking to sell for like $8 billion. Okay. Why would you sell a business like that? It's producing money left and right. I think part of it is because of AI. Because now, like the production of AI models, which you can see these AI models on Instagram, look so real.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but like a woman in the real world can't compete because this is like literally the perfect being
Right.
is being created. And so like I feel like the other side of AI is that it's going to, I don't want to say it's going to completely decimate Hollywood, but like, if there's an AI influencer on Instagram, not porn related, but just like an influencer, let's say like Brad Pitt, but like times 10, studio might just pay like a quarter of the cost to, use the rights of that AI avatar in their movies versus actually paying a Brad Pitt.
Yeah. I mean, they certainly come with, the only issue would be the AI would not be able to then go on tours and do interviews. Well, maybe if you
maybe.
if
So here's okay, all right, let's really go down this like uncanny valley path, which is okay. Well, there's also like humanoid robots are being developed, so you can develop you can contract a humanoid robot, pay somebody to develop like the skin for that, right?
Now you
Like Tesla humanoid robot, but you have, like this is, you know, it's wild.
It is wild, but that was part of the basis behind that Hollywood writer strike that happened recently. One of the demands that they had in there, and not necessarily unfairly, is they said, we don't want folks taking examples of scripts, running it through an AI, training it, and then
Oh, I didn't
I
know that.
yes, and it was a very real issue because they're saying, "Hey, we don't want you coming in and replacing us writers with just a chatbot coming in and writing scripts. We don't want you taking the scripts that we've created to use that and train an AI chatbot to then." And that was a very real demand of theirs, and it's a very real concern, right? Because like you were saying, it's like you could try to train an AI to do that. Now, again, getting back to what I was saying about marketing, I would caution against doing that, especially today, tomorrow, next week, next month. I don't think it's there, right? It's not quite there where you can just rely on an AI to write a whole script. Just like there was a leader of a business once asked me, well, couldn't I just replace my Marcom department with ChatGPT to just do all the content for us? And I was like, no, absolutely not. I don't recommend that. Right.
Right,
But
right.
we're not there yet. I would say maybe not there ever in the sense that you still will always have that 5% as per, what the CEO of Goldman Sachs said. You still need that 5% of human ingenuity, judgment, being able to tell nuance, being able to tell, hey, does this message resonate with the market now, given dynamic market changes? Is it going to be able to interact with your KOLs for you and, build those relationships? I would say no. So you do still need folks for those very important functions that I simply don't think an AI will be able to replace. But certainly when you're talking about doing content creation, building models, maybe whether they're human or not, yeah, perhaps AI
And
could take over.
yeah, and again, like I'll give, and again, we're both marketers, so I wonder what your take is. So when it comes to like AI taking a job, like right now, today, right now, design and graphics design easily done by AI.
Wow.
That being said, I still deal with the designer because I don't have the design background nor the interest to spend time working with AI to refine design. I'm just not going to do it. But it's just made, let's say I'm using a contract design, it made them way more effective, and they can, what would normally take them a few weeks to do, they can do it in like a day and deal with more clients, make more money. I think that's sort of one of the positives of AI.
That's one of the positives. And I actually, so before I even, graduated from university, I did work at a design firm and it was interior design. So like decorating Hiltons and Marriotts across the country is essentially what I did. But it was interesting. I was asked by a family member to help renovate their house. They wanted to completely redesign it. And so I actually used an AI to help me do a rendering. I actually picked the exact products I wanted to use in their house, like the fabrics, to reupholster their couch with, the rug, the furniture. I actually put the links into an AI, took a picture of the room, and I asked it to rework the room with all of these pieces that I had custom picked out for this family member. Did it get it 100% right? No, it looked a little bit funky. However, directionally, it was like the colors, the textures, the furniture design. It was close enough that my relative was like, yes, that's exactly what I want. Go ahead and order everything. And I just placed the order. So it was like close enough, right? That I could at least move forward with the project, get it done. And gosh, it's a lot easier than me going out and, physically taking pictures or trying to, collage everything together, almost like Pinterest style for this person.
Right, right. And I think again, like the whole key here is just how do you start taking your own skill set and scaling it on a day-to-day basis? Like, what are some other ways that you personally like using these LMs? And again, I'm using that as an example because not every, ChatGPT is one of many.
Right. I mean, really, when I think about what we do as a marketer, right, it's a lot of content creation, especially when you're in a medtech startup. It's like I'm not just focused on product marketing. I'm having to do the whole gamut of not only product marketing, it's digital social media marketing. I'm having to do, creative briefs. Those are the kinds of things, like especially a creative brief, I'm using AI to help create that for me, and then I'm fine-tuning it because that used to be something that took forever. Or for example, like Canva, if you want to try to create a PowerPoint presentation. You used to have to like almost, it was like an art project, having to like fine tune and create all the graphics and pieces that you would put into a PowerPoint presentation. And now you can get there a lot faster using something like Canva and it looks beautiful, right? So those are other ways where it used to be something that took a lot of time. And you have to spend so much of your time as a marketer doing these things, like creating PowerPoint presentations, creating creative briefs, creating an SOP. And now you can just do it so much faster. And again, like I said, these are very low risk pieces. Again, it's not something that's necessarily customer facing. For me right now, it's kind of hard for me to let go and let AI do things that are customer facing. I just sometimes still don't trust it enough to do that. Not for all of it. Maybe for some pieces, like you said, if you're doing an AI voiceover. But yeah, certainly a lower risk thing. If you're just trying to dabble in it, for anyone out there who's not using it at all, if you want to dabble in it, start with something that's lower risk, like a creative brief. Start with something lower risk, like an SOP. It's something that is not a patient-facing piece or customer-facing piece, and see how it goes. And like I said, be prepared. It'll get you part of the way there, and then the rest you need to polish yourself. But
I agree.
again, frees up so much more of my time because there's just so much you need to do. And there's still only the same exact amount of time to do everything. And so it just helps you do things faster, do it with excellence, right? Because you can just use that extra time to polish it. And then it gives you more time to be strategic and really think about strategy. How are we going to take this to the next level? You have more time to do that and be creative.
Yeah. And I think like, in terms of the tools, like to put it simply for marketers to use, like I think of all the LMs out there, Gemini is probably the most powerful and best one just because it's Google. They own everything. So a lot of times I develop documents and reports, whatever it might be from Gemini, but then I go to ChatGPT where I can train something that's personal, whether it's to like one of our, so for our clients, every client of ours has a GPT specific to them based on their brand guidelines, their product marketing, et cetera, so on and so forth. And that way I'm able to feed those documents to those GPTs. And just so that way it kind of gets better and better. I'm not having to like restart a conversation. Even for the state of Medtech, we have a GPT specific for it. And so there's a ongoing thread that the GPT understands that once a episode's done, it creates like our transcripts, our show notes, our YouTube posts, LinkedIn, so on and so forth. But again, just makes it like way, way more easier.
Right. Yeah. And we have one specific for Eko Health as well. So you do have that piece of continuity, and then everything is for sure in the voice of the company, written in such a way. So for example, it's not going to say diagnose because we're not indicated for diagnosing heart and lung diseases, but we can detect those diseases. And so it will know that. It will know not to say diagnose, for example.
Yeah. Have you seen any, I guess, new AI tools that are out there that caught your interest to try and use? Like, I mean, for me, probably the latest one is Google View on the video side. I haven't used it yet, though. I was trying to use it the other day, but I think I need like a little bit more work on it. But any AI tools that kind of caught your attention recently?
For me, the one that you just brought up, the notebook one, I'm like, well, I want to try that. So
You're gonna like that one a lot.
yeah, I have
I
not
think
tried
it's
that one. So
good.
well, I'm looking forward to that one.
I think the other one, because like the other thing is the quality of the data that that the LLM's trained on. So like Gemini is like really good. The other one is XAI's Grok is actually really good.
That one I
You
actually
know,
haven't used. I've used Gemini and I've used ChatGPT, but Grok I have not dabbled with yet either.
Grok is really good. And here's the reason why I think it's so good is, first of all, like if you go on, so X, formerly known as Twitter, today, in the past, like, it was really just like short tweets and everything. But now, like to actually grow on there, it's really competitive. I think the smartest, like I love LinkedIn, but I think the smartest people in the world, they're all on X. And so to compete on X these days, people are creating these extremely long, in-depth threads where they'll go on a topic and they'll have like 5 or 10 X posts or tweets in a row. And each post will have like research attached to it. They'll have videos. They'll have all these things. Like for myself, along with other shows, like we upload the full podcast in video onto X. And so Grok is getting trained on all this data. Plus, like, I think X is currently the #1 app for news, and so journalists, all news related stuff is on there. And as it relates to our industry, a lot of physicians are posting research on X as well,
That's true.
and so that's kind of one reason why I've been like using Grok more. But I'd say like my daily bread and butter is between ChatGPT, Notebook LM, and Gemini.
Yeah, no, that makes sense because like you said, it's like you're using ChatGPT to fine tune something that you created from Notebook. I mean, I think that's a very appropriate use of that. So, I mean, you're way ahead of a lot of the other folks that are in marketing. I mean, I'm telling you, most of the people that I talk to, they still don't use.
What percentage of marketers in all of med device do you think use an LLM on a daily basis, if you had to guess?
I mean, I would say it's probably more like 20%, less, definitely less than 30. And that might even be
I
high.
I think that's really generous. If I had to guess, I think honestly, if we took all the marketers in our industry and looked at who uses an LLM on a daily basis, knowingly, by the way, knowingly, not unknowingly, like because it's like in Zoom or something.
Sure.
I think it's like less than 5%.
Yeah,
Honestly.
no, okay, that's a good point when you say knowingly. Yeah, because I just feel like AI is so pervasive in a lot of the tools we use. I mean, even just PowerPoint has AI now.
Yeah, I was gonna say knowingly. Yeah, that's
Okay.
knowingly.
Then yes, 5% is probably more realistic if they're actually specifically going in and using it versus like it's just embedded in what you're using.
Okay, so let's do a little game here. And technically this is not like too fantasy like because like it can be done. But as a marketer, if you can create, let's say, an AI agent, right? And by the way, just so people understand, LLMs, you have to directly interact with it. An AI agent literally acts like an autonomous being and does things. Okay.
Mhm.
If you were to create like an AI to help you do something in marketing, like what would that one thing be?
Marketing analytics. Like
I, I
measuring.
you know what? This is why we're friends. That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yes.
Like I need something to go and so tell us how you have to pull marketing analytics today, and then what would this agentic AI agent do?
So I'm just going to be very upfront. I am not a Salesforce expert by any means. Like, I don't really know how to unlock and harness all the power that
Come
is
on,
in sales.
Grace, just come on, just say what you really want to say. You wanted to say that I'm not a Salesforce fan. You can say that on the show.
Yeah,
I'm not a Salesforce
it's a
fan.
necessary evil, but I'm definitely not a fan. And I don't,
No marketer woke up and said, like, you know what, I crushed my job today because of Salesforce. Thank you, Salesforce.
I, so it's just one of those things where it's like you have to deal with it, but it's like, I just like cringe inside every single time I have to go in there and like create some kind of like campaign tracker. And so, like, right now, what happens, like I mentioned, I'd go to a conference or I do a marketing campaign and you have all of the leads or the contacts from that campaign. Now you want to track them over time and you want to see, okay, how are we interacting with them? Is their behavior changing? Are they converting into an opportunity? Are they going from an opportunity to closing? Well, it's a very clunky process right now, and dare I say, very inaccurate a lot of times. And so, if I could have an agent that could, like, if I could just like, here's the list of all of the contacts. It's been formatted. Like, they'll format it for me. First of all, this is what the agent will do: format it for me so it's in a Salesforce appropriate formatting. Then put it into a campaign. Create a dashboard for me so I can go in there and look at the dashboard on like a daily or weekly basis to see the progress of all of the leads that were put into that campaign, and then be able to report out on it. Like, have nice little graphs that come out and say, here's the change week over week. Here's last month compared to this month, and show trends. That would make my job so much easier because it's like now we're able to kind of measure, if you will, the ROI of all of the campaigns you're doing and separate them out, because sometimes you'll have multiple people or like one person and they're involved in multiple campaigns. Like, you have this one lead, but you interacted with them in multiple email campaigns, and they also went to multiple conferences that you interacted with. And then that's where it gets muddy. And so that would make my job so much easier. And I would love that. And I'm sure it's just on the horizon, Omar.
Yeah, well, I know, not to get like off topic, like one of the show sponsors, like Showpad, they just released one of their AI tools, which essentially helps with automating a lot of like buyer experiences and things on the rep side and everything. For those who are interested, just go to showpad.com/state of medtech and you can kind of see more. So on the same topic, like, yeah, same here. Like, just for the show, we have to produce like certain reports, pulling data, and like even me having asked my team to have to go into like Apple and then Spotify and to all these different things to pull the data. And I would love an agentic platform where I can, I guess the way it would work is like I would just give it the logins and just say, these are the things I want on a quarterly basis, and it just pulls it. And obviously, if it's able to pull data, it can analyze it. So something that something I do myself, and I recommend marketers do it, is, getting like a report from your HubSpot or Salesforce or whatever you use, and like putting it into ChatGPT and asking it to sort of interpret it and give you feedback. Something that I do actually on a monthly basis now, but definitely quarterly basis, that I feed ChatGPT. I have like a thread, and I feed it my balance sheet, my P&L statement, everything, and I have it give me like some like I tell it to treat me like Gordon Gekko, the guy from Wall Street, to kind of read these reports and kind of give me feedback as to like the health of my business and everything.
Right.
So I think like it really helps when you use these LLMs as kind of a unbiased, objective third party to kind of look at things and give you feedback, and also as like a creative partner,
Mhm.
you know?
No, I mean that's a really good point, and they have said that it could start to be that people are starting to look at their finances. They're starting to look. I've heard of some people train a GPT, if you will, to or not a GPT, but like an AI to automate their trades for them. Like they have a portfolio and it's like pair trading back and forth. I'm like, it's wild what everyone's doing now. So, like I said, we're at the dawn of it right now, and it's not too late for anyone who's still sitting on the fence to kind of jump in with both feet and really learn to master it. Because I think, to your point, Omar, it's like we will not be replaced as marketers today, tomorrow, probably not next week or next month. But there will come a day where, as a marketer, you could very well be replaced by someone else who is using AI and doing it effectively.
100%. And just onto that point, just so people don't think like this is a crazy idea to ask AI for advice and everything, I want to show you a clip because it's so iconic now. A lot of people forgot about this, but this is a clip from it says 2 years ago, but it might have been a little bit longer. So this is Sam Altman being asked about ChatGPT, like right when it was being released, like how it plans to generate revenue. And here's his answer. Grace, you can hear that, right?
I can, yes.
Okay, let me start it over. So like, this guy has, raised billions of dollars on a multiple billion-dollar valuation, and his thing about like how we're gonna make money is like we're gonna ask the LLM. So at this point, like OpenAI has been trained on so much, same with Gemini, everything, and I think it's worth, a lot of times I use the LLMs almost like they're like individuals. So I'll go ask Gemini its opinion on something. I'll ask ChatGPT, right? And I think that again, I think the marketers are going to win in this new age of AI is not only the ones who are using the AI, but the ones who are like really creative, they're well read, and they kind of come with different creative ways of asking the AI different questions, generating deeper, conversations and stuff. I mean, I don't know if you've done this yet, but like, so I have on my phone, I have Gemini, Grok, Notebook LM, and ChatGPT, and I think maybe one other. But with my ChatGPT, I'll turn it on to voice mode, and I'll talk to it while I'm driving, and it'll talk back to me. You know,
That one
for those who are for those who are curious, I picked like I don't want to hear a man's voice, so I have a British woman. I really like her a lot.
You know, I've noticed that, yeah, people a lot of times they'll pick it's not only a woman's voice, but they'll pick an accent. So it's like an Australian accent or a British accent or yeah, it's interesting how we always like to choose an accent to pair with our whether it's Siri or your car or whatever it is. That's funny. I'm sure
Yeah,
you're not alone, Omar.
yeah, and so I think again, like the best. Would you agree that the best advice is just to get started and just playing around with these
That's
tools?
yes, don't look, here's the thing. There's a certain fear and rightfully so around AI, and I fully acknowledge that, but it's not going away. Just like the internet.
It's not going. Oh yeah, and not playing with it, not using it isn't going to do. By the way, so can I share something else with you? And I'm wondering
Of
if
course.
you've talked to your team about this. So there's a large SaaS company that I know the head of growth at, and we were talking about this topic, and he did a poll with his team, and his team is like they have like a team of 30 marketers about do you use like an LLM, and a lot of them said no. And the reason why they said no, I think it was something like 60% or 70%. The reason why they said no is that they felt guilty because they felt that they weren't good at their job if they had to use an LLM.
Oh.
Do you think there's that some level of guilt sometimes on marketers for using? I don't know if that's a thing.
I think yes. I think especially for marketers, another pushback I've heard is there's concerns about copyright infringement. Not copyright infringement, but plagiarizing. So plagiarism. And that's a very real concern, especially if you've got more of a journalism background and you understand the importance of
Oh, right,
plagiarism,
right.
especially in the realm of content creation. So I understand that concern, right? Which is why I say proofread, definitely put your own touch on it. Don't just be like, okay, this is good enough and put it out there. Don't do that. But I would say that there is some guilt because when you think about the value that a marketer brings to the table, you're a very effective marketer if you can think outside the box, you can color outside the lines and think into, innovatively, right? Like okay, you could be good enough if you do the exact same thing as every other marketer before you has done. It'll be good enough. But to be truly excellent and to be like a standout, marketer who's really going to change how things are done, it takes some innovation. And I think there's the concern that's like, well, if I'm just chat GPTing my way through life in my job, I am losing that creative edge, right? And I think there is, or like you said, it's just like I'm picking the easy way out. And I would say it doesn't have to be that way. Really, what it is, free yourself up to do what makes you stand out and have that time to be creative, have that time to think innovatively, have that time to think strategically by removing some of the tedium, like doing things like an SOP or something like a brief. Like it takes so long to do those things. Let it do most of the work for you and then let your creativity come through, is what I would challenge folks to think of it instead.
What's going on, everybody? Quick commercial break. Now, whether you're a sales or marketing leader in medtech, let's be honest, when you think about your reps who are out in the field, they're spending a lot of time not selling, like literally not selling. And the reason why that's happening is because our industry is really outdated when it comes to sales enablement and sales excellence. Think about what your reps are actually doing if you really ask them. They're spending time updating the CRM, juggling administrative tasks, searching for the right piece of content before they talk to a surgeon. They're literally at a disadvantage, and it doesn't have to be this way. That's not selling. It's literally just friction getting in the way of revenue. This is why I've personally partnered up with Showpad for over the past year. You've heard me talk about them before on the show. Showpad is the first AI-powered revenue effectiveness platform built for complex field selling. It brings together things like content, readiness, collaboration, and intelligence all in one place, so you understand things like which piece of content is actually having the most impact and effect, and more importantly, how you can automate things so that sellers can focus on selling. Sellers can instantly find the right content with AI search, sharpen their pitches with AI roleplay, which is really cool to see, and even build digital mutual action plans that stay in sync with buyers and accelerate deal cycles. Deal velocity and pipeline velocity is everything. Showpad really helps that. So all this context essentially goes back and fuels Showpad's intelligence layer, surfacing insights and the next best steps to help sellers close deals faster. So if you're interested to learn more, go to showpad.com/state of medtech and you can learn more there. Now, let's get back to the episode.
I think it's a great way to put it. And maybe just to kind of add on to that, like, I think, I was thinking, like right now, even when I'm in meetings, like I'll have ChatGPT pulled up to go back and forth and come up with, thoughts and ideas and everything. And so I was thinking, I was like, if we go like, if we get crazy with this and say like 50 years from now, and we all have like some LLM AI implanted, right? Because I mean, at this point, like the phone might as well be implanted, it's with us all the time. So like at that point, like you don't need to think, right? So what's left to do? I think the only thing left to do is like to be a vessel where you experience and pull in data and insights and everything, so that way the AI model can be trained. So I think like right now, like as a marketer, if you pretend that like everything you do is automated and done by AI, what's your role as a marketer? I think your role as a marketer is to constantly be getting more educated, looking for ideas, pulling that creative insight, and then presenting that to AI so we can do something with it. Because if you don't do that as a marketer or as a user, AI is not going, it's only going to give the output that's best based on the input that's receiving.
Exactly. It's like, if it's garbage in, it's garbage out. Like we always say, especially with Salesforce, if you're putting garbage data in there, you're getting garbage reports out. So it's the same thing. And that's why I think that would be, again, my challenge to anyone who's listening. Learn to become good at prompting your AI, working with it, talking to it, like what you've done, Omar. Very good example.
And by the way, as we kind of like round things out a bit, so here, I have a controversial question to ask you. I want you to be like very honest about this. Let's just say you go to a completely different company.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you feel like, how necessary do you think Salesforce is? Do you think a lot of companies can essentially just be run on a CRM like HubSpot? I'm a big fan of HubSpot. HubSpot is not a paid partner of the show.
Mhm.
I don't get a dime from them. I should. But like, I'm a big fan of HubSpot because it's everything that you need. There's a part of me that I feel like a lot of the customizations in Salesforce for our industry aren't necessary. But again, I'm a startup guy. So like I haven't like been at like a large company that's like scaling and, has like hundreds of reps and stuff. So I don't know. I'm wondering what your take is.
I think that's exactly what it is, Omar, because like certainly they were using Salesforce when I was there at Boston Scientific and quite effectively, right? And they had a whole team of people. Like it was a large team of people that was dedicated just to Salesforce.
Just to Salesforce, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
to Salesforce. And so they were using it very effectively. But when you're looking at something like a smart startup, like what I'm at, then yeah, like you said, it has a lot of tools and customization features that maybe are not as appropriate when you only have like a sales team of like, let's say you have a sales team of 5 versus a sales team of 2,000, right, at another company. So I think it just depends, right? So
Got it.
I'm being
Well,
very
look,
dramatic, yeah.
no, not at all. And I appreciate you coming on the show. So real quick, just to kind of round things out, to have a little fun, we're going to do a little rapid fire questions. Okay.
Mhm.
So first question is that you start over tomorrow as a marketer at a completely new company. What's your go-to tech stack that, technology stack that like you have to function?
I have to have my Google tools. I have to. So
Okay.
Google Docs, Google Sheets, all of those things. It's very basic, but I have to have it. Your Gmail, everything.
All right. You got 2 other things that you can add to that tech stack.
2 other things I can add. Well, then I want my Microsoft tools as well because I'm just used to it. Look, I'm old school. I grew up using all of those things. So I need that as well. And I need Adobe because I do a lot of creative work. So
I need to, believe it or not, I need to use Adobe. I've not used it, but their tools look phenomenal.
they are.
And I have a bunch of friends, or at least B2B influencer friends, who are Adobe ambassadors, and it looks like they have quite a good time. So I should probably hit up Adobe at some point.
Yeah, I love it. Like I said, I know that sounds so basic what I said, but
What's your favorite Adobe tool?
you know what? Just being able to edit things. Like I go in there and I edit. I mean, that's just the editor tool. I love it. So it's
Okay, so controversial question. So I know you use Canva as one, everything. Adobe or Canva?
I would say Adobe. If I had
Oh, really? Tell me. Okay, now you've piqued my interest because we're a Canva user here on the agency side, but I don't. At least to my knowledge, I don't think we have Adobe. Maybe the team does, and I'm paying for it. I don't know about it. I'm pretty sure. Now that would make me a bad business. I know everything we pay for. We don't have Adobe unless somebody on our team has it, a license that's outside of our company, and I don't know about it. But tell me why you like Adobe so much.
You know what? It really just comes down to personal preference. It's not because Canva isn't good, but I grew up using Adobe. So, like, I'm showing my age here. Like, I just am so used to it. Right. And it's like, I know how to tweak pieces and how to get it to look exactly the way I want it to. Versus with Canva, I just feel like it's still like I'm still learning how to make it do exactly what I want. And so for me, it's really just that like it's that inertia that you face when you're really trying to master something new. And it's always good to learn something new. It's good for your brain. But like if I have to say why, it's really just comes down to that, Omar. It's like I'm just more familiar and comfortable with Adobe.
Got it. Okay, that's fair. All right. Question number 2. We talked about continuing education, how it's important. I'm going to leave this open. You can pick like one, like non-business, one business, but what books do you feel like you recommend most often to people?
You know what? This again, you're going to laugh at me. I feel like sometimes when people say, okay, what's your superpower? My superpower has been I'm extremely adaptable. It's like be like water, right? It's like you just keep moving. You don't let
Oh, I like that.
just keep moving. And one of the first business books I read was Who Moved My Cheese? And I know it's so ridiculous, but
No, it's a good book.
it's the
It's a good
power of
book.
like, don't let an obstacle make you just sit there and stop. Like, just keep moving, right? Like, be like water and just keep flowing. And I feel like that served me well in my career. And it's my little superpower.
Got it. Fantastic. And then very last thing is, you know, post pandemic, I think everybody got addicted to just ordering stuff on Amazon. But like, what's a cool Amazon product or gadget or gizmo you bought that's like under $200?
Oh, no, under $200. Okay, that's
Okay, if it's over $200, I need to change because everyone says the same thing. It used to be $100 and I upped it to 2. Let's just say something cool you bought from Amazon.
okay. So here's something I can't live without, and I will just reveal I'm a woman of a certain age. I try to not look like I'm a woman of a certain age, and Medicube helps me do that. So no free sponsors, I know, but I bought that gadget. It literally has
What is this?
it's like all these different like laser tools in one feature. So it has like radio.
Tell me
Yeah,
the name of it. How do you spell it?
Medicube. So it has all these different features. So when you go to like a med spa, for example, and they have very powerful tools they use on your face, but you're not going to go do that every day. You know, like if someone's doing like what I'm just trying to think, like let's say you're doing a photo facial, you're trying to get rid of pigmentation on your face. Well, you're not going to go get that done every day, but you go pay all the money, you invest in that. Now you want to maintain your results. here's something that can help you do that, and has all the different like frequency lights and pieces in
It's
one device.
like the Medicube Booster Pro.
Yes, I swear by that thing. I do not live without that. I travel with
Really?
it. I use it
And
twice a week.
you use it twice a day?
Morning,
So like you just
yeah, my morning routine. I got a morning routine and a night routine. It just makes all
Ah,
of your product. I mean, if you're like me, you're spending a lot of money on products that you put on your face. It's just making it that much more effective.
interesting. All right, I'm gonna look into this thing.
I
You
swear
know,
by it.
I'm on camera, so like, I have to have like,
Well, that was the whole thing about post-pandemic, Omar. It's like I kept looking at myself on Zoom cameras and I'm like, do I really look like that? And so they were saying that actually cosmetic procedures started skyrocketing after the pandemic because people started seeing themselves all the
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that too. I was like, okay, I need to do something about this situation here. So,
Oh, that's interesting. You would think that people just use the filters, but like,
hey, you can't filter your way through life. You need to do something.
oh, there we go. That needs to be on a t-shirt. That needs to be on a
Someone
t-shirt.
was going to see you at some point in real life, IRL. So,
Oh, facts.
that's
Well, Grace, look, thank you so much for coming on the show. We definitely have to have you back, and we really appreciate it. And for those who are listening, go give Grace a follow. It's Grace Hanson on LinkedIn. Any other handles you want to throw out there?
No, LinkedIn is great. I was supposed to say that's the best way to find me. And of course, follow me, I'll follow you back. So
Awesome. All right, Grace, thank you so much. And for those who are listening, if you enjoyed this, another marketer who can benefit, send them this episode. As always, give us 5 stars, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to do me a big favor and join so many other people who have helped grow this podcast, take a second and look below. If you're on Apple, give us 5 stars and write a short review. If you're on Spotify, just give us 5 stars. And if you're on YouTube, hit the like button. And most importantly, if you can, subscribe. We release so many different episodes that you may miss. Be sure to subscribe and turn your notifications on. You get extra points with me if you subscribe across all 3 channels. Thank you so much. And if you felt like this episode helped you, send this to somebody who'd really enjoy and appreciate it. Share and spread the love. We'll see you all next time.